I was born curious. You might even say I'm nosy. All right, I'm a snoop. See, that's why I'm so glad I'm a moth. I love it. I'm small, barely noticeable, and I've had the chance to fly around the world and see everything. Well, I thought I'd seen everything until I landed in an empire not so far away, where once upon a time there lived an emperor with a passion for fashion. Nothing made the emperor more happy than wearing fancy new clothes and then showing them off to everyone in the empire. This is a true story, by the way. You've read about it. It's in all the papers. I mean, if you didn't hear it from me, you'll hear it from somebody. Anyway, the emperor's birthday was coming up, and for the parade in his honor, he wanted the most fantastic suit ever created, made from the best materials in the world. The best cloth in the world. Now, how could any self-respecting moth pass up a chance to get a taste of that? I buzzed over the empire as fast as my wings could carry me and touched down just as the emperor called his prime minister to the imperial palace for a very important meeting. That prime minister sure is a bitter guy.
My old school chum, the Emperor, is so brave, so wise, so totally wrong for the job. It should be me. I run the Empire. He's just a clothes-loving pinhead. If just once he'd say, Cedric, I'd be lost without you. I'd be happy. Or at least less inclined to steal the Empire's money behind his back. But no, it's always, Cedric do this, and Cedric do that. For instance, the vexing matter of his birthday suit. I was busy preparing for the Summit of Kings when the Emperor sent for me. Trusty Cedric, he commanded, stop everything and give your full attention to finding a spectacular ensemble of clothing for me to wear in my birthday parade. Shopping? This was beneath me. I suggested he call one of my lieutenants or his wife, for goodness sake. But he insisted I was the man for the job. I was humiliated. I went to take a bath, which always helps me scheme. I mean, think. Soaking in my tub, looking at my wrinkled pink body, I was struck by an idea. What could be more embarrassing than getting the Emperor to walk among his subjects naked, all the while believing he's clothed in the latest fashion? They'll think he's crazy and demand that he step down. Then I'll take over and finally get what I deserve.
Now, of course, this prime minister guy couldn't carry out his evil plan by himself. No, sirree, Bob. So he crept around to the darkest corners of the empire looking for help. And he found the perfect accomplices. A happily married couple of rotten thieves.
Me and Johnny was kind of on the run, see, having just scammed a wealthy, stupid family out of their jewelry.
Things was fine till a nosy policeman recognized the bleeding ring on Mary's finger as belonging to some old duchess and locked us up.
Just when we thought we was goners, this pompous little prime minister creeps up and makes us an offer.
He'd keep us out of the imperial dungeon if we could get the emperor believing we was able to weave a cloth so fancy that stupid, tasteless people couldn't see it.
Anybody who'd hire a weasel like the prime minister couldn't be too hard to fool. So me and Johnny, we decided to take the job.
The emperor was putty in our hands. We told him what a fine figure of a man he was, so handsome and refined.
For an elegant man like yourself, I told the emperor, I'd advise a humble, modest line. Don't want to flash the commoners too much.
Yeah, we buttered him up real good, so we could hit him up for the things we'd need. Gold, silver, jewels.
But nobody can weave with just minerals and gems, I said. The scam had to sound kind of genuine. So I asked for pricey silk from Chinese worms and leaves from a tea plant in Darjeeling, India.
We was back in business, all right. Robbing the emperor blind.
So Mary and Johnny, that couple of ragtag con men off the street, talked their way into the job of creating the emperor's new clothes. They were given beautiful quarters in the palace to work, complete with the imperial family's treasured spinning wheel. Of course, they had no idea she was an enchanted spinning wheel. She had her eye on them the whole time.
When word unspooled around the palace that these weavers had a special talent for making cloth visible only to them what's got taste and smarts, I was eager to meet the weaving geniuses and get to work. I've been out of use for some time. The Empress don't do much spinning. Has her fancy frock sent from Paris, France, she does. She'd never want to mess up them bony, delicate hands of hers for sure. But as soon as we're alone, the weavers gave me the brush off, tittering on and on about the wool they was pulling over the Emperor's eyes. Well, I'm a proper spinning wheel, I am. I don't cotton to them what spin yarns with lies and such. Why, my spokes nearly bent out of shape, having to sit growing cobwebs while them thieving cheats thatch their plans. Well, mark my words, the wheel of fortune spins slowly, but just like me giant wheel, what goes round comes around. They'll get what's coming to them, and that's for certain.
Meanwhile, the Emperor was eager to hear how things were going with his magnificent new clothes. He sent his imperial dresser to visit the weavers and come back with a progress report. The jittery guy bustled by me in such a rush, he created a wind tunnel that just carried me along.
Clothes make the man. I pick the clothes. Ergo, I make the man, or in this case, the Emperor. I don't like anyone interfering with my fashion turf. So when the imperial order came down for me to review the weavers' work, I was eager to check out the competitors and then have them thrown out on their presumptuous behinds. With all the charm of the bubonic plague, the weavers began their feeble presentation with gobs of attitude and little expertise, explaining that material of such a fine and rare nature could only be seen by visionaries gifted with true taste and imagination. Can you beat it? The gall! But when they pulled out the material, I saw absolutely nothing. I broke into a cold sweat, the same way I did when the Emperor wore white after Labor Day. Was I losing my mind? Was my wig on too tight? Me, without taste? Impossible. I removed my spectacles and saw even less. Blurrier nothing. Oh, my, oh, dear. Oh, the horror. The Emperor can be a bit fickle. He would have me beheaded, or even worse, fired for being a tasteless dresser. So I returned to my imperial employer and gushed, "Fabulous! It's classic! Oh, the possibilities are endless. It goes with everything." Certainly, no one is going to say I'm not gifted with a brilliant imagination.
The dresser's spectacles were pretty disgusted by the dresser's behavior. I never realized a pair of glasses could get so bent out of shape.
In all the years I've sat on the nose of the imperial dresser, no moment was more horrible than the instant he ripped me from his face and blamed his inability to see the weaver's wares on my tired lenses. Oh, my. All I long for is a soft case to hold me, a cloth to lie on, to be worn on a chain round the neck rather than crammed in a pocket. The simple things. Who needed this? With such savageness was I yanked off and tossed harshly, I say, onto a table. I'm surprised I didn't shatter from the force and the humiliation. The weavers buzzed around the dresser, pant, pant, fawn, fawn, showering him with attention, cutting patterns, prepping mannequins, and chiming, "Any suggestions? Your opinion means the world to us. Oh, do say you're pleased." Oh, it was quite a wonderful bit of staging, but to the trained observer, an obvious sham. That near-sighted ninny fawning and cooing over those imaginary cloaks certainly made a fool of himself. What a spectacle, indeed, if I do say so myself.
The dresser was so upset by his run-in with the weavers that he went to see the pompous imperial physician to have his eyes examined and his nerves settled. I, of course, had to follow.
The people in this empire are Dummkopfs. They whine of aches and pains, but they are as healthy as the oxen that pulled my father's plow back in Frankfurt. The dresser is the worst, complaining of distorted vision. It's his brain that's distorted. That fool pulled me from my important earwax research to examine the new cloth. The weaver spun around, raising dust clouds that made it difficult to see anything. But it was clear I was looking at nothing. Then I discovered that the emperor himself was eager to hear my fashion prognosis. I could care less about such matters. But the emperor's blood pressure runs a little high, and the last thing I wanted to do was send it higher by criticizing his noble attire. My concern is his health, not his wardrobe. I went to his chambers and carefully injected my opinion. Good choice, Herr Emperor. Such light and airy clothes will certainly not irritate your sensitive imperial skin. As for the dresser's 40 spectacles, I came up with, recalled the great Waldo Überfluffers theory of refractive ocular clarity. When seen through lenses, the weaver's pattern bounces off the eye at 183 degrees, causing temporary blindness. As I left the emperor's chambers, I couldn't help but smile. Once again, I'd arrived at a brilliant diagnosis in a situation that would have left most physicians completely baffled.
Just then, Her Royal Highness, the Empress, caught wind of the new clothes hubbub. She was overwhelmed with curiosity and jealousy. With her ladies-in-waiting hustling and bustling behind her, she marched off to the weavers to investigate.
Je suis l'impératrice. For those of you who have been mercifully spared the rigors of intelligence, that's French. For I am the Empress, the better half of you-know-who. Whatever I wear looks simply divine on me. And when it comes to fashion, well, I do the influencing around here. It's exhausting, really. But when I heard about La Pièce de Résistance, the Emperor's new clothes, I just had to give my approval. My husband, although loving and fair, isn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. I've got to watch out for him, pauvre petite. Quel dommage pour moi, c'est la vie. I took one look at the weaver's work and I thought, where's the joie de vivre? The sequins, the savoir-faire? It's just so sans everything. Is this a sick joke? And then it dawned on me. In fashion, it's important to make a statement. Have style, take risks, be bold. The weavers had created a birthday suit, so simple in its elegance, and yet so daring in its transparency. If I wasn't so clever, I might have missed it. Quelle bonne idée! I insisted they make one for moi immediately.
I couldn't believe that the Empress fell for the weaver's racket. I gotta tell you, Beatrini and Eugenia, her ladies-in-waiting, oh, yeah, they were no help. Behind her back, those sniveling, cowering servants were a couple of real big mouths.
I, Beatrini von Beck, could have been.
No, I, Eugenia von Berg, should have been the Emperor's wife.
Instead, we've been ladies-in-waiting since our early teens, when her royal airhead married his most excellent emperor. Well, now the closest we get to the good life is shadowing wifey and indulging her empressy whims. Like having to check out those weavers.
anyone could see those sniveling sleazeballs were thieves. But oh no, not our little imperial nitwit. She oohed and ahed like a child watching fireworks.
And then Eugenia has the gall to suggest the noble ninny get a matching outfit to wear to the parade.
Bee laughed so hard, her head bobbed up and down. I think our bird-brain boss thought Bee was nodding in agreement with my idea, because at that exact moment, she commanded the weavers to start measuring her scrawny bag of bones.
But it was completely the regal banana head's idea to have matching outfits made for the children. A shame, really. I mean, just because the mother's a dingbat doesn't mean the kids should be made fools of, too.
So I respectfully said, "But Empress, so many outfits of the same material could belittle the sublime dual splendor of you and the Emperor." But her loopiness insisted. She sent for the children at once.
The first royal kid to arrive at the weaver's quarters was the Princess Cassandra.
After Mom made us dress up for visiting royalty to do a song and dance number from The Sound of Music, I swore, "Cassie, you'll never let that woman tell you what to wear again." But Mom is still the Empress, and when she waves her hand and says, "Princess Cassandra must meet with the Imperial Weavers," you gotta go. To tell the truth, the Weavers were not very well dressed, but I was taught to never judge a book by its cover. I mean, look at Albert Einstein. His hair was ridiculous, but the man was a genius. They gave a big talk about stupid people not being able to see their cloth, blah, blah, blah. Then showed me the new clothes. I thought they were joking. They weren't. There was no way I'd ever wear something so revealing. So I made a deal with Mom. I'd wear one of those awful, frilly princess rags she loves to see me in if I could pass on the weaver's stuff. "The style is just too simple for me," I pleaded. "And so expensive, I'm afraid I'd ruin such finery." She went for it. Sure, I'd have to wear pink, but considering the alternative, I think I got the bargain end of the deal.
Being prince has its advantages. You know, money, servants, great food, an awesome palace to live in. But it's kind of a drag, too. I mean, real kids aren't given names like Gunther Robert, and they're definitely not sent for by totally uncool empresses for fittings with the weavers. I showed up with my St. Bernard puppy. You know, small fry. My first impression was that the weavers needed, well, weavers. Their cloth was invisible. Totally cool, I thought. This should be in fashion for all the girls in the Empire. But then I realized I'd have to start the trend by wearing nothing at the parade. If my friends saw me, I'd be finished. I got really nervous and started to babble. I had a big lunch. I don't feel so good. You know, I'm late for an appointment. I've got arthritis. Bursitis. My dog needs to go for a walk. My dress shoes need shining. Is it raining outside? The weavers were speechless. Even Small Fry looked confused. I seized that moment to bolt to my lesson. Maybe the wizard could teach me how to disappear.
The prince and Small Fry raced down a palace hallway on their way to see Tao, which rhymes with wow, by the way, the Imperial Wizard. But as they turned a corner just a little too fast, they ran smack into the Emperor. Now, the Emperor knew the prince had just come from the weavers, see, and after they got up and dusted themselves off, he asked his son what he thought of the weavers' fine work on his new clothes. The prince was caught off guard. He stuttered and stammered. He told his father he was in a rush. He was on his way to see the wizard, late for his conjuring lesson. But he promised to get back to the Emperor as soon as possible, quick as I can. Sure. So off we went to see the wizard, Fidgety Boy, Slobbery Dog, and Sneaky Me.
The prince came to me experiencing confusion. He wanted to tell his father the truth. But how can I give an opinion of nothing? The boy asked. The truth, I explained, is like the blue of the sky. Clouds may obscure it, but they'll eventually pass, and the truth reemerges. He still seemed lost, so I tried another path. Muddy waters can clear only when they are left alone. Leave this alone. So too will the truth settle. Oh yeah, the doctrine of inaction, one of my favorites and always a safe bet. The prince seemed moved by my great insight. He asked me to view the cloth myself and to share my musings with the emperor. I desire to leave no stone unturned, nor no boss's wish unheeded, and so I went. The weavers had woven a cunning illusion, an impressive presentation that made everything quite clear. I returned to the emperor and bestowed upon him a gem of mystical wisdom. The true sage may wear coarse garments, but he carries a jewel in his heart. Ah, yes, the emperor was overjoyed. My students' confusion was eased. I'd reeled off 3 perplexing proverbs, and all this before lunch. Another day's work for a man in the know. Though I must admit that even I wasn't sure I knew what I meant.
The emperor nodded and smiled at the old wizard's pronouncements, which meant the emperor didn't understand a single word the guy said either. Oh, now the emperor was really confused. So he sent for Aetherius, the imperial holy man. Maybe a man of the cloth could bring the emperor a little clarity.
Now, fashion is not customarily a religious concern, but my house of worship, not to mention my fancy apartment, gourmet room service, generous personal allowance, and lavish carriage with its team of white stallions, is all supported by the emperor. So, in good faith, believe me when I say it was my divine pleasure to oblige when he asked me to go bless his wondrous new clothes. The odd weaver couple evangelically proclaimed that the clothes could be seen only by those possessing eternal intelligence and taste. Then they flourished, draped and smoothed, thin air. The pair finally dropped to their knees and asked me to bless the empty hanger from which their work hung. Well, what could I do? I accept miracles every day. I prayed that this was one of them. I returned to the emperor and told him I found the fabric to be heavenly. How spiritually exhausting. The emperor doesn't pay me enough for this.
Oh, the emperor's head was spinning. He needed to get his mind off of things, relax, give himself a break. So he called for Good Bend Over, his trusty court jester.
Hello, I'm the butt of my jokes. My butt is the joke. I have a musical behind, a riotous rump, a talented tuchus, a primal rear. I entertain with my gift of gas. It is my special art. Please, no smoking, no flames. Thank you. I was performing my rendition of Blowing in the Wind for the Emperor when in burst the holy man, blowing some wind of his own. I heard rumors about the new clothes. I had to see them myself. Well, when I got to the weavers, and I'm not talking the folk singers, I smelled something rotten. And for once, it wasn't moi. And I overheard them cackling, which is like chickens, but different. They're all going like, the old crow is almost ready. He can't wait to slip into his invisible birthday suit. I turned to butt out, to lead with my best side, as I always do, and ran smack into his royal highness. Oh, he asked what I thought of his new clothes. And as my father, hairy behind, God rest his soul, always said to moi, know which side your butt is better done. I was not going to lie or deliver bad news. I said, very revealing, Your Grace. They'll undoubtedly show off your best assets. Then I made a hasty exit and broke like the wind. Better. There, we are tuned up. I'm ready for the show.
The guy's a gas, and it just cracks me up. Anyway, finally, the weaver sent word that they were ready for a fitting. The emperor would at last see the new clothes for himself. He assembled all of his advisors in the imperial dressing room for the big moment. The weavers carefully fitted the new clothes on the emperor. Oh, they fussed and bothered and tugged on this and that. Then they finally stood back, nodding approvals and gushing compliments. Oh, the sinister prime minister watched it all with a really creepy smile, then humbly suggested the emperor turn around and look in the imperial mirror to see the finished product for himself. Oh boy, that mirror just took him in.
I'm perfect. No, really, I am. Flawless, unclouded, impeccable, quite simply incapable of making a mistake. I reflect things exactly as they are. Nothing gets by me. Sure, the Emperor and I have haggled about the size of his bald spot over the years, but he always ends up seeing things my way, which is why I watched the Weaver's theatrics with such amusement. I was certain that once the Emperor took a good look into my glass at the great final fitting, he would see the truth, and together we'd shatter the thieves' scam. Mirror saves the day, etc., etc. Well, the Emperor stepped in front of me, and we locked eyes. He stared at his reflection, but he kept looking at his advisors behind him. Surely he saw what I showed him unmistakably. A framed, nearly naked emperor, that twitchy pair of weavers, the sinister prime minister, and the whole nodding imperial court of fools. But the emperor didn't say a word. I just about cracked. I was showing him everything, as clear as could be. My gilded glory. What was he possibly thinking?
The silence was broken by a cry of great joy, which none of the people were able to hear. And it came from the most unlikely of places. The Emperor's, tidy-whitey underwear.
Yes, I was so pleased to see myself, looking especially smart and trim in the Imperial mirror. Of everyone in the Imperial dressing room, no one was more purely and sincerely excited about the Emperor's forthcoming birthday parade than me. I've always been supportive of the Emperor, but his wise decision to go with these new clothes was one that I was especially happy to get behind. I've had enough of undercover work. My lifelong dream was to be seen in public. At the parade, I would finally be the star. I simply could not wait to hear the crowd's cheers. Nothing comes between me and my Emperor.
Of course, the throne didn't sit on her opinion.
I know this is hard to believe, but off the record, the Emperor doesn't always wear the finest underwear, all right? I mean, I know, I couldn't believe it either. Lord knows he could afford the good stuff. I mean, I wonder, what was his mother thinking about? Did she bring him up right? Sometimes his undies, basically, look like Swiss cheese. Holy. I just wish that I could tell His Imperialness about that manipulating, conniving, icky, all-around poopy prime minister. Listen, let me tell you this. When the kingdom's asleep, this guy tiptoes into the Emperor's chambers and he plants his bottom on me. That's right, it ain't a pretty sight. Then he pretends to be the boss, and he's got 30 feet, no less. Just for the record, too. The prime minister's behind, it's rough and coarse like sandpaper. It's got more hair on it than the princess's pet orangutan. He's one hairy, smelly dude. Anyway, when I saw the Emperor coming toward me to sit down, I was not prepared for his, how can I say this politely? Well, his bare essentials. Okay, I got myself 4 legs and I couldn't even run away. The Emperor is a kind, decent, benevolent man, and his behind, it's softer than silk, more tender than 1,000 babies' bottoms. But come on, I prefer my Royal Highness unexposed.
Just then, the Emperor stood up from his throne and announced, "These are the finest threads I think I've ever seen." Just then, the weaver lady cleared her throat, kind of like that, and started making funny eyes at her husband. Forgive me, my husband, your majesty, but he nearly forgot one of the most important pieces of the ensemble, she said, jamming her elbow into the weaver man's ribs. The imperial undergarment. Oh, yeah, her husband said. Got it right here. He bowed his head and acted like he was holding something delicate in his bony fingers, but of course there was nothing there. Behold your most excellent birthday briefs, our very special gift. No charge. Well, the Emperor thanked the weavers and gingerly accepted his underwear, I guess. He solemnly promised to wear them on the big day. Man, those weaver thieves, they're good, aren't they? The Prime Minister was beaming. And the Emperor's old underwear, bounced out of a job by these new invisible undies, were the most disappointed piece of cotton I'd ever seen in my life. So the sun went down and came up again, and it was the Emperor's birthday. The big day had arrived. Everyone gathered for the parade, signaled by the heralding horn.
You know, they call me the Henna Hopper of the Horns, 'cause I get the word out. It's my job. Sometimes, all the geschrien, that means yelling, wears on my pipes. But, my voice is insured by Lloyd's of London, so one day I'll be very quiet, but very rich. Hello? Anyway, the sun was shining, kids were playing, birds were singing. Everyone was in the fancy schmancy procession. They were all lining up, ready to go. You know, it was a big deal. In the middle of it all stood, I kid you not, these two imperial pink blobs. The most gullible schmucks I had ever seen. I could not believe it, but the emperor and his wife were buying into this mishigas. But it was time for me to trumpet the royal fanfare. And for all the people to wonder where their tax money was going with these two morons at the helm. My full brassy lips carried my tune to the streets. But what I was really blasting was, hear ye, today we'll live in infamy. Because, honey, trust me, you ain't seen nothing yet. Oy vey.
You could barely hear the heralding horn over the excited crowd. And as the parade began, everybody pushed forward to get a peek at the Emperor's new clothes. Of course, for me, this crowd was like, hey, this is a smorgasbord waiting to happen. You know what I'm talking about? I made a beeline for a woman wearing a wool shawl that looked absolutely delicious. She was packed into the sidelines with her son, an honest-looking kid, I guess. She didn't even notice as I nibbled her shawl like movie popcorn watching the big show.
Well, who are we kidding? I mean, just looking at that parade, you knew one thing. The Emperor had blown the entire parade budget on his new clothes. I mean, the parade was... I mean, what do you expect when you see a parade? You expect ballerinas, you expect jugglers, dancing bears. You know what we got? We got a couple of 300-pound fat ballerinas who couldn't plie, and a juggler, if you want to call him that, juggling one ball, which he dropped. Next came the Emperor's dogs, followed by the Emperor's sisters, and let me tell you something, the two groups were easily confused. Finally, bringing up the rear, there were these two, and I use the word as a compliment, hideous, naked people to whom aerobics was clearly a foreign concept. I thought to myself, I am always right. How often have I said, even a crown cannot distract from ugly cellulite? Now, the fact that the royal couple were naked did cross my mind. But so did visions of being in a prison tower and having my head lopped off for speaking out against the emperor. I mean, I'm not stupid. My son started pestering me, pulling on my skirt and trying to be heard over the crummy tuba band. He finally kicked me, which no son should do to such a young and attractive mother. The emperor and empress have no clothes on, he whispered. Shut up, sweetheart, I said. Shh. I'm trying desperately to protect him. He's my only child. Listen to me, I said. The clothes are flesh-colored. Look, you can see the pretty blue lines in the Empress's stockings.
Was my mom losing her mind? Was everyone wacko? Or was I the nutcase? I knew what I was seeing. I mean, I was 99.9999% sure I knew what I was seeing. But people were acting weird, saying, I love it. The outfit is so uncomplicated. And they've outdone themselves this time. Huh? I pushed through the jungle of grown-ups' legs and got my toes right on the edge of the line where a sign read, "Please do not cross." And then I leaned way forward and squinted really hard and said, "The Emperor and Empress are naked!" Finally, somebody had told the truth. Oops, that somebody was me. I hadn't realized how loud I was until I heard, "Naked!" echoing off the castle walls. My mom tried to cover my mouth, but ended up just sticking her finger up my nose. Everyone shut up at the exact same second, and the whole parade stopped right in front of me. Thousands of people were staring. My heart started pounding so hard, I thought my ribs were going to crack. The rumbling in my ears got louder and louder. Was I completely busted? Or was I just right?
The rumbling the boy heard wasn't coming from inside his head. It was coming from the crowd. "He's right! The boy's right!" they were all saying. Well, the rumbling grew into a ruckus. Things were looking pretty bad for the royal family and the entire humiliated imperial court. The empire was about to riot. Just then, the imperial general, an imposing man who thought quickly on his feet, sprung into action.
In all the confusion, I spied an evil grin creeping across the Prime Minister's face. I knew he was up to no good. I'd been certain for some time he was lining his pockets with the people's money, waiting for a chance to overthrow the Emperor. But the Prime Minister wasn't going to get his chance. Not on my watch. I positioned myself close to the Emperor and quietly congratulated him on his successful plan to uncover evil influences in the government. He had no idea what I was talking about, until I helped him realize that the parade was a plan, his plan, to turn the tables on the Prime Minister and the Weavers and to expose their dastardly plot by exposing himself. That little weasel of a Prime Minister was shaking all over when I grabbed him. He knew his plan had failed, and that with just a slight bit more pressure, I could snap his wicked neck. The sniffling plotters begged for mercy as I carted them off. The Prime Minister blamed the Weavers, and the Weavers, of course, blamed him right back. Ha! Spineless scoundrels. My duty was done. The stage was set for the Emperor to speak.
Citizens! Your Emperor, Trent Trendycrest, demands your attention. The ousted Prime Minister's just lost his pension. You see, this parade was a clever charade to expose 2 imposters and 1 renegade. Today is a day for great celebration. We are rid of those knaves. Peace and joy fill our nation. But now I am faced with a vacant high post. A trusted advisor is what I need most. I have someone in mind who is brave, smart, and true. Not to mention his sweater's a nice shade of blue. So, my people, the residents of this fine land, I present our new Prime Minister, the honest boy. Let's give him a hand. I then asked the boy how he'd honestly feel if I wore brown suede shoes with a black belt of eel. Without missing a beat, he planted his feet and spoke loudly and clearly to the whole crowded street. It just doesn't matter if your clothes are a tatter or woven from fine golden thread. It's what's in your heart that makes you look smart, not to mention the brain in your head. The crowd cheered. A wide path was cleared. When the boy raised his medal, his mother's eyes teared. And perhaps even I had a tear in my eye, an emotion the greatest of wealth couldn't buy. Yes, honesty's always the best policy. Tell the whole naked truth when you see what you see. But I'd never have learned that, I surely suppose, if I hadn't been wearing the Emperor's new clothes.
And, well, all right, you guessed it, everybody lived happily ever after. Everyone, that is, except the former Prime Minister and the Weavers. To this very day, the evil trio was on public display in a big glass box in front of the palace. All day and night, they weave and sew new clothes, real ones, to be given away to everyone in the empire. Although some say this is more of a punishment for the townspeople, the 3 are forced to do their work naked. Oh, they're lousy tailors. They make a lot of mistakes, but thanks to them, I'm a very happy moth. My belly stays full on the heaps of tasty scraps that pile high behind that glass box. And the honest boy, well, he made a terrific Prime Minister. He really helped the empire learn its lesson. In fact, his reign began a new era in which everyone in the empire only told the truth. But that's a whole nother story, and maybe I'll share that with you someday. In the meantime, hey, listen, do a friendly moth a favor, will you? Look, tell your parents, get rid of all those nasty mothballs and the cedar chips. Who knows? Maybe I'll wing by for a visit. Get them out of here.